Well, the parents of a 6-month-old baby found dead in Clayton County have been indicted on charges related to his death.
Nnakai Pratt was found dead back in October near an apartment complex in Riverdale. Atlanta News First, Nnakai Watson is outside the Clayton County Courthouse with new details on those charges.
Antonio Pierce and Nnakai Pratt were supposed to have a preliminary hearing this morning, but during that hearing, a judge said they had both been indicted, so there would no longer be a hearing. But we have obtained a copy of the indictment.
State of Georgia versus Antonio Pierce.
Yeah, that case has been indicted.
Antonio Pierce and Nnakai Pratt have been indicted on a total of 9 counts in the death of their 6-month-old son, Nnakai Pratt. The indictment accuses both parents of false report of a crime, felony murder, and cruelty to children, stating they, quote, maliciously caused Nnakai cruel and excessive pain by disfiguring his head. Baby Nnakai was found dead near an apartment complex in Riverdale after Pierce reported him missing. Pierce initially claimed he was robbed at gunpoint and that the robbers took Nnakai, but his arrest warrant states police used his phone records to search the apartment complex where they discovered Nnakai's body. Police also say the parents' stories didn't match up and that Pratt had previously told officers Pierce had shaken the child. Pratt has also been indicted on an obstruction of an officer charge for failing to disclose information about the ongoing investigation of Nnakai's disappearance. Because the parents have both been indicted by a grand jury, there was no need to do a preliminary hearing, which is meant to determine if there is probable cause for an indictment. We have reached out to court officials to learn more about their next court appearance. We will keep you updated as we get new information. Reporting in Clayton County, I'm Nnakai Watson, Atlanta News First.